to the 2024 Stanley Cup odds. The Hurricanes remain the favorite, followed by the Panthers and the Rangers. Interesting that they all are coming from the similar side of the bracket.
While the Oilers have the top-end talent, I still don't think they have enough depth, and Stuart Skinner does not scare me in net. So I will take a long series from the Oilers and the Kings, and ultimately I think the Stars are the ones coming out of the West for the Stanley Cup.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
DraftKings making a progressive move, I think, that most other companies are also going to do or have done in the past. Adding someone from the government or someone you would say in legislation to become their responsible gaming leader here. And in this case, her name is Lori Kalani.
And it'll be interesting to see if other companies try to follow suit in terms of hiring former lobbyists to head responsible gaming.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on Sport.
Welcome in. It's Game Time Decisions. We're live on a Thursday night on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh with you. 2 hours, a lot to get to here. No doubt about it. The NBA board yesterday and tonight providing plenty to discuss. We've got one NHL game tonight, one baseball game remaining, and we'll put our eye towards the 2025 NFL Draft with the Colorado Buffaloes starting quarterback Shedeur Sanders in the conversation for that pick, and certainly a topic of conversation recently with some Twitter beef popping off. We will get to all of that. Joe Lisi will be here to talk some football. We're going to talk to Joe Madden, get you picks for both that NHL game and tonight's Astros-Guardians game that closes out the baseball board. Brian Fonseca will be here in 10 minutes. We're not only going to talk about your NBA games tonight, but the Miami Heat and their rumor mill that is swirling early. And can this Heat team finally cash in on a big-time superstar this offseason? And we'll check in with the Consig, who was live out there watching A's Pirates recently, get some thoughts on that situation and some of the line movement that we have within the NBA. As we open things up, though, the association is the starting point of our focus. And here with the updated bracket, you do see the series that have gone final. It's been a while since I've been in the mix with you here on Game Time Decisions, so just want to quickly hit on some of these items. OKC New Orleans for the Thunder. Nobody's going to throw a ton of roses at their feet for getting rid of the Pelicans, though they certainly deserve a bunch of credit. The Pels, it's clear, it's obvious. One of Ingram or Zion need to go this offseason. At some point here, we will talk about landing spots, what makes up a ton of sense. I think there are Eastern Conference teams that will be in the mix for either one of those guys. We finished out Minnesota and Phoenix. The Suns, man, oh man, inexcusable here. You were a pre-series favorite. You were non-competitive for 3 of the 4 games. You have Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker playing 1990s basketball. And no, not the 1990s tough, rugged basketball. No. The mid-range jumper, anti-analytics, if you will, and you saw why it went left here. Kevin Durant, Shot 12 threes in this series. Unforgivable stuff. Frank Vogel's on the hot seat. Does he stay back? Does Kevin Durant ask out? Matt Ishbia has been steady saying things in Phoenix will not change. We will see if the tone on that flips, because we know Kevin Durant changes his mind pretty often. And if he wants out, perhaps Phoenix is willing to facilitate a move like that. Nuggets get the job done against the Lakers. For Denver, the fact that they not only won this series but won it on the back of Jamal Murray in the fourth quarter, I think gives them a ton of confidence because of the Jamal calf strain that had him listed as questionable for Game 5. Denver not going to be in action until Saturday, so a little bit of rest as well for the defending champs is certainly important. For the Lakers, they will be firing, you would imagine, Darvin Ham sooner than later, but ultimately the questions around LeBron are the big ones. We will talk about LeBron and Bronny and the impact of all of that in a little bit. And then we saw the Boston Celtics finish up the Miami Heat 4-1. For Miami, again, we'll talk with Brian Fonseca about their prospects. But for the title favorites, Boston Celtics, this series was kind of perfect. In 4 of the games, they proved they were significantly better than Miami. Boston has shown they are the best team in basketball. Nobody really challenges that. But we know there are concerns with trusting the Celtics, and that was shown with them losing at home against Miami. Had they dropped one in South Beach, people would have said, tip of the cap to Spo, Hero, Bam, good job stepping up. The fact that they lost it in Boston is just another reminder that the Celtics are a little difficult to trust. That's just the reality of it here. We'll get to all of these series. Don't you worry about it. But let's shoot it inside to the 2 games that are tonight. A pair of Game 6s where the chance to close out is on the table. One team on the road, that's the New York Knicks. They play the Philadelphia 76ers at a wild 9 o'clock tip. It's the result of where these cities are. I get it. It's what are you going to do? You got a pair of East Coast teams going. It's obviously not ideal. That's where things are right now, starting at 9 o'clock. But I know I'll be up, and I'm sure plenty of you will as well. There is a team total in that game that is my absolute favorite. I want to get a little bit into those updated series leaders as well because of the interest that you have with Brunson, Maxey, and Embiid all making a legitimate case to lead that series in points. We'll also go to that Pacers-Bucks game. So I'm actually not on the board yet. I've been waiting. I refused to bet this game until the Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo news hit, and it has. Giannis out, Dame in, which is a shame. I have desperately wanted Giannis to play in this series, not because I have a Bucks. Well, partly, I guess, because I have a Bucks plus 1.5 game series spread price that requires Milwaukee to win this game here, because Giannis props in this series are a dreamboat. I mentioned, and it never came to fruition, we've never, on any book that I've seen, had series leaders for Indiana and Milwaukee. But if we did, I would have wanted Giannis to lead the series in points, knowing he was going to miss at minimum 2 games. And that obviously probably saved me a bit of money that they never posted those, funny enough. But if Giannis played tonight on discounted numbers, I would have been in the mix. No Giannis, but Dame is back. 25.5 points, 3.5 made threes. Halliburton juice is a little bit interesting to me. Minus 140 for a double-double out there in the market. We will get you all the updated spreads between the Pacers and the Bucks momentarily here. Let's bring this over to the NHL bracket, though. Some series are set. We have another game tonight that will potentially decide things between Boston and Toronto. But you've got the Panthers already advancing, awaiting the winner there. Colorado's advanced. Edmonton's moved on. The Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes are set to do battle. As I said, it's a Boston and Toronto tonight. The Maple Leafs saved off elimination. They win in Boston for the 2nd time in this series, which is incredibly impressive, but it has to be a bit frustrating for Maple Leafs fans. Getting 2 in Boston, you should be coming back here looking to close this series out. You really should. And instead, you're trying to keep your hopes alive, and then you have to win again in Boston, and potentially all without Austin Matthews, who missed last game, misses tonight, and not a lot of thought that he would be back if this series does advance to a 7th game. It's a tough spot the Maple Leafs have found themselves in, no doubt about it. Let's get over to your Major League Baseball game tonight. Again, it's just 1 game left. MLB Play of the Day. By the way, I went through and where the record sits, a month into this, and through by April's end, 16-7 on MLB Play of the Day. Certainly nothing to be boisterous about, But all in all, through the first month, figuring out some numbers, figuring out some strategies, figuring out the best way to approach the board, I'm okay with that. Found props, and I bet more props than anything else for those play of the days, but I found props to be the strong suit, and I'm hoping to, I think, focus in a little bit more on those prop markets. Now, Meneses couldn't help us out today with the Washington Nationals. Did get a hit, couldn't get a run or an RBI or a second hit, but at least there was a little bit of juice there. It's also a condensed board, right? Could have maybe waited a little bit for Astros Guardians, which does see the Astros as a home favorite. Total 9 in this game. We'll talk with Joe Madden in a little bit about that. We go over to the NFL draft odds, 2025 style here quickly, and we're going to hit these with Joe Lisi quite a bit. Carson Beck, Shedeur Sanders, James Pierce are clearly a tier above the rest. What you have here with Beck and Shedeur Sanders, though, is still quarterbacks getting the love. And you see that with Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward, and Drew Aller as well on this board. Who is drafting quarterback first overall? If they have the pick, right? The Giants come to mind. The Raiders come to mind. Will those teams potentially trade up? Becomes another question. Are these guys worth trading up for? There could be real value in fading quarterback. I'll say this, though. These are FanDuel odds. I know that it's made the round. Shedeur Sanders, plus 100. Recently was the number on DraftKings to be the first overall pick here. So if you are a Sanders believer, you have to look around. But is it possible that the hype and attention on Shedeur with everything at Colorado, could it become a negative? I'm not saying it is. We know how the draft process goes. The Sanders bet doesn't feel like the right one to make right now. We'll talk again with Joe Lisi about that in a bit. When we go to the basketball board next with Brian Fonseca here on Game Time Decisions.
Torrey Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze's not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also they picked out the Bears as the winner.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Game Time had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on SportsGrid, it's Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh with you on this Thursday night, joined by Brian Fonseca, who's joined us a few times here talking basketball. We've got a little bit of time today to hit tonight's games, as well as talk a little Miami Heat rumors, which are wonderfully swirling already. Brian, excited to get some time here on Thursday.
Let's get into it. Let's do it.
I think it's appropriate to start, though, with the Knicks. And you made the point, and I know it's a little out of order, but we'll get there. You made the point that you are a New Yorker. Me as well. You would never know that from my fandom, and you would certainly not know that if you hear how I discuss Jalen Brunson. Because if you are a Knicks fan, Jalen Brunson is the savior to basketball. And I'm just curious where you land on Brunson, the crime that is Brunson not being on Team USA, and his performance thus far in this series with the Knicks up 3-2.
I think he's great. I just worry about his health every game I watch him play because of all the herky-jerky stuff and having to create. And when it becomes fourth quarter time and the offense is Jalen Brunson do everything, I get very worried. Is what I would say about that. I think he's a fantastic basketball player. I'm surprised he's doing the things he's doing as someone who loved him in college. I didn't think he was going to become this ever. To me, he was fifth probably for MVP this year. If I had a ballot, I'd probably put him fifth. That being said, I don't think that a Jalen Brunson-led team is like something that you want in this scenario, being that look at where everyone else is. Like, he needs help is the point. And I don't think the help is Julius Randle either, but he needs help at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, 100%, right? I mean, look, the second, I guess OG with the defense maybe was their second best guy, but Dante DiVincenzo has been not replaced, but his minutes have been cut in half for Deuce McBride, right? It's been an interesting series. And I'm aware Brunson is giving this team 34 a night. Here's the thing. If you want to put your guy in the conversation, then he's going to get judged that way. And I'm well aware of this. Being a LeBron fan has made me overly critical of everybody else, probably. But Brunson is shooting 42% from the field and under 30% from three. The volume is one of a kind. Now, it is not, you cannot hand any player in the league this kind of volume and get these results. I get that. But the idea of, hey, man, Brunson's clearly top 10. Oh, Brunson's completely leaped past your Devin Bookers or just hold on a minute, all right? We'll take a deep breath, and we'll see how this thing plays out. But how do you think it plays out tonight, Brian? Do you have a look here on Sixers-Knicks Game 7 in Philly?
Joel Embiid under 30.5 points is all I could muster up the courage to do. I have no idea who's going to win this game tonight. Kind of like the under as well. Like the over-under was 202, 201, 199. Now it's back to 202. So I'm like, listen, man, I'm all for grimy, disgusting Eastern Conference muddy basketball. That I love that. But 202 is 202. This is very low. I like Joel Embiid under 30.5 points. Here's why. He's just settling a lot. He's taking like 68% of his shots are from two in the playoffs, whereas it was closer to like 84 during the regular season. He's taking a lot more threes because he's settling. High volume, almost 7 threes a game. He's making about 32.4% of them from three. And obviously he's had problems with Mitchell Robinson in particular, although Isaiah Hartenstein's had some good moments on him. And also, by the way, half of his face hurts and he has one good leg. So I just don't see him getting above 30 points in this game.
Yeah, I managed to somehow look at Embiid to lead the game in points and his under, and I realized that meant get away from his prop. To your point about the confusion of this game, I am on the Knicks team total over at 99.5. And then someone said, oh, so you like the over in the game? I said, nope. And they're like, oh, so you like the Knicks to win? And I said, nope. I just like the Knicks team total because I don't really know what I'm getting from Philly. Because if Embiid can find himself, he can get this team to a 120 spot, right? If he can't and Maxey reasonably drops back, they could land in the 80s. So I'm not messing around with the full total or the money line. I trust the Knicks offense here. 2 straight in regulation. They have not hit 100. Their highest scoring game in this series came in Philadelphia. I think the Knicks offense is, and this sounds ridiculous, I feel confident enough they can score 100. If this was 101.5, I'd probably just end up with a stupid Dante DiVincenzo bet. And, Brian, I understand all your hesitations there. Let me ask you about Bucks-Pacers. Dame is in. Giannis is out. This has been a fascinating one because I laughed going into the series that this was going to be Bucks come up short, Doc makes excuses, and now I actually think Doc is valid in his excuses. It's hard not to believe that a healthy Bucks wouldn't have won this series maybe already. Do you think they could extend it to a 7th game?
Yes, as much as I love the spirit Indiana plays with, I love Bobby Portis and Patrick Beverley and the ability to potentially just get a game on the road. They really have to grind Indiana down is where I don't know if they could do that. And Chris Middleton obviously is going to be a big part of this. Damian Lillard, we'll see. If Damian Lillard is a decoy offensively, then no, I don't love the Bucks in this particular spot. It's a stay away from me, though, because I know some people who, I would consider them sharp bettors, and they're like, hey, I'm probably going to take Indiana if Damian Lillard plays. And it's kind of the same thing with Kawhi, where it's like, oh, when he comes back, bet the Mavericks, because working his star back into the fold when they're injured in the playoffs is a difficult thing to do, even though Damian Lillard in this case didn't miss as much time as Kawhi Leonard has. So I'm way higher on the Mavericks and the Pacers. So I'm not going to abide by the exact same rules, but I do think Milwaukee could get one. And I hope they do, because I want one of these things to go 7 games. I can't believe we're still in the first round and I'm being greedy about it. But yeah, give me a 7-game series, because I think the Mavericks are finishing the Clippers off in the next one. I don't think that one's going 7.
I mean, yeah, just quickly on that. The Mavericks are 3-0 in that series when they don't spot the Clippers a 30-point lead.
Correct.
It is that simple. The Clippers are not on their level, and Kawhi is confirmed out, by the way, for Game 6. Coming up next, are the Miami Heat going to bring back LeBron? Probably not, but we'll talk about it still on the other side.
Tory Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze is not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also they picked to have the Bears as the winner.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here, because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're back with you right here. It's Game Time Decisions. I'll make a Game Time decision. I'm going to go Middleton over the 12.5 rebounds plus assists for this game. It's dropped a little bit because Dame is back in, and that's basically all I needed to see. To what Brian was talking about, finding a way to almost fade Dame coming back respectfully is the goal. And that's what I'm going to do here. Middleton's workload is not going to drop. He's been falling short of the assists mark for a while. I think he could break through that number, but he also has 3 straight double-digit rebound games, and sometimes guys just get on rebound heaters. So at 12.5 rebounds plus assists, I'm willing to trust Chris Middleton here in this spot. With that said, let's talk a little Miami Heat. We'll keep in the Eastern Conference because Brian knows this team well. I feel I know this team pretty well. And unfortunately, we didn't get to talk about Miami in the way we have the past few years in the playoffs, which is the Grim Reaper is here to take all your hopes and dreams. Instead, no Jimmy Butler, and they get gentlemen swept by the Boston Celtics. They did take a home game off them, which is absolutely wonderful, and it will be hilarious if that ends up being the only home loss the Celtics have this playoffs. But again, time will tell. Brian, the Heat rumors are already starting. Durant, there were some LeBron comments, Donovan Mitchell stuff. What do you make of the Heat as they are now into the offseason and that rumor mill is going to start to swirl, just like it did last year with all the Dame stuff?
It's going to be the same thing every year. This is a little bit different, though, because this year I feel like they're backed into a corner and have to actually do something. Last year, it was like Bradley Beal's on the market, and Pat Riley's like, hey, your no trade clause, we don't want that. And Mark Bartlestein is probably like, well, no, we want our no trade clause. And then Pat Riley's like, all right, then have fun going somewhere else. And he had fun in Phoenix, evidently. Yeah. They wanted Damian Lillard. Joe Cronin didn't want to play ball with them. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of what it is. Yeah. And if you remember in the bubble, they blew up the Milwaukee Bucks because after that, they beat them so bad. They were like, all right, we got to trade for Drew Holiday. Bye-bye, Eric Bledsoe. They beat the Celtics bad enough to where the Celtics were like, we got to get Kristaps Porzingis. And they got Derek White somewhere along the way, but that was before that. And now they've both, well, not both. The Celtics have beaten the Heat to the point where it's like, all right, is it going to be Donovan Mitchell? Is it going to be Kevin Durant? You threw out LeBron James's name, which, I mean.
Can't help myself. I can't. I miss those days. I miss him in a Heat uniform. It is the ultimate my worlds colliding. And I told this to Brian during the break. Tim Hardaway Sr. said Riley would never bring him back. If that's true, fire Pat Riley. Pat has been chasing bringing back a LeBron type since LeBron left. I agree, by the way. But that would be a level of Pat Riley cannot be that stubborn. I'll add this, because I'm going to talk Bronny in a little bit on the show anyway. If Bronny landed in Miami, all of a sudden people might be like, oh, maybe this will work out. I'm just saying. Nobody thought the Jaime Jaquez thing was going to work out. Then he landed in Miami, and he's going to finish first team all rookie.
I don't think Bronny James is an NBA player yet. But someone's going to draft him because one, this draft class is bad. It's a role player draft class at best. It sucks. And they're saying, hey, Bronny James is an NBA level defender. I'm not sure if that's the case, but Bronny James also had cardiac arrest before the season last year. So the sample size that he displayed in college, I'm not actually sure if that's representative of who he can be as a player. It's probably not. But if he does, in fact, stay in the draft, because he also entered the transfer portal. If he does stay in the draft, it'd be really funny to see Miami take them. Although I don't think they would do it at 15. I don't think so.
We'll get to it. If it comes with a LeBron guarantee, it's worth it. If it doesn't, then it's a whole different thing.
LeBron
What do you
has
think
a player
about the
option,
Durant
by
stuff?
the way. LeBron has a player option, by the way, for $51 million. So that's worth noting. The Durant stuff is he's going to be in year 18. I don't feel like he's been Kevin Durant since that Bucks series with the Nets in 2021. Since then, I feel like he's just kind of putting up numbers, and I don't feel like he's been that same level of impact. He's also been swept twice since then on 2 super teams.
Are you telling me that Frank Vogel is anti-3-pointer or Durant? Because if it's Vogel, then fire him. And if it's Durant, somebody give him a shake. It's 2024. He's a 50, 40, 90 guy. He has to shoot more threes, Brian.
He's also going to be 36 in September. Jimmy Butler turns 35 in the same month. And I think they should look at the guy in Cleveland who's around Bam Adebayo's age and be like, all right, you're going to be the bridge between this Bam timeline and the end of this Jimmy timeline. You're the third guy. Tyler Hero, it might have to be Jaquez and Jovic. They have 3 tradable first-round picks, or they're going to have 3 tradable first-round picks. I don't. That may be too steep for some people, but I mean, this is what star packages kind of look like. That's just a guess.
It's going to be interesting. Fun off season in South Beach. It always is. Thank you, Brian. We'll be right back. Game Time Decisions.
Tory Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze is not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also it's a great pick to have the Bears as the winner.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad, bad, bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Back with you right here on SportsGrid. We have the upcoming Bucks-Pacers game, which I mentioned I'm on the Chris Middleton. Rebounds plus assists, 12.5. That was at minus 132. Middleton's been hot rebounding, double digits in 3 straight games. And I think the assist numbers are kind of due to break out. And it wouldn't surprise me if that happens here. So I think there's multiple pathways to success in this market. Give me the Middleton over 12.5 rebounds plus assists, which dropped because Dame was put back in the lineup, and that's fine. I think Middleton is probably still going to be the key guy for Milwaukee in this instance, and that's exactly how I want to play it. Now, again, I want to talk a little bit about some of the offseason stuff with the NBA. Eventually, they're going to give us 2025 odds for the NBA Finals, and this could very well be a situation back when people bet the Tampa Bay Bucks to win a Super Bowl based on, hey, maybe Brady goes here. And it's still remarkable that that worked out. But it did. And there are LeBron and Brady comparisons, no doubt about it. The longevity stuff is staring you right in the face. And there's a world that LeBron leaves the Lakers. Now, it's not the favorite outcome, right? A team that finished 47-35, 7th seed in the West, and were eliminated by the defending champs, eliminated by the Nuggets 2 years in a row. They have some obvious changes to make. Firing Darvin Ham is one. Look, let's be clear, that's going to be a positive for LeBron. The hire is up in the air because you never know what Pelinka and Buss and the front office is going to do. But moving on from Darvin Ham is going to be a positive. And adding a third guy would also be a big positive for LeBron. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, Zach LaVine, and who knows who else could potentially be opt-outs, right? I think Paul George could very well be on the market with the Clippers and the Lakers trade. No, but you never know. Donovan Mitchell's going to get tossed around. I don't think that's realistic. But at the end of the day, if the Lakers bring in a third guy, And it doesn't matter if people think that they should or not in this moment. I'm just saying what would make LeBron happy. That would make LeBron happy. There's also the Bronny James thing of this, which is fascinating. And the Shams Charania of The Athletic tweeted out a big Lakers report when their season ended and said that the Lakers could very well be willing to draft Bronny to allow that dream to come true for LeBron to play alongside his son. And I know that, again, that is met with a ton of backlash for people. They cannot believe there is a world where Bronny would be drafted by the Lakers for LeBron. One, and I don't want to get into this too much, but one, taking a McDonald's All-American after their freshman season is more than fine. Happens all the time. It'll happen at multiple points in this draft, and there will be people commenting on this stuff who are completely unaware. They'll be like, oh, wow, great pick on the Justin Edwards. A lot of value, a lot of upside, right? But the Bronny stuff will be all negative and tied to LeBron. And that's fine, right? Luckily, I'll be manning the ship on our NBA draft show, and we can steer that conversation in the correct direction and an accurate one at that. But what if other teams are willing to draft Bronny if it means bringing in LeBron? Because the other Bronny report that has come out is that may no longer be priority one for LeBron. Playing with his son might not be priority one. He could play against him. If his son's in the league, all good. I almost wonder if it's a situation where LeBron doesn't want to promise he is coming with his son, because then that will almost make where his son, if his son were all of a sudden selected in the top 5, it would feel a bit ridiculous. Is LeBron worth a top 5 pick? It depends who's drafting. It depends the situation around it. But I think the ties to it almost leave the Lakers as a kind of endpoint, right? I think the Lakers are well aware, whenever they come on the clock, that if Bronny's on the board, they probably have to take him. That would be best for business, keeping LeBron. And not just best for business, sales, jerseys, all that, right? But also, and this is forgotten all the time, the Lakers were objectively a disaster for nearly a decade, give or take, okay? A little shorter than a decade, certainly 5 years or so from when LeBron showed up. A complete disaster, right? And how many of the decisions that you don't credit to LeBron do you love from this organization? You don't give them credit really for signing LeBron. He made that decision on his own. You don't give them credit for trading for Anthony Davis. So apparently that was LeBron's idea. I mean, you can give them credit for not trading for Russ if you want to blame that on LeBron. But again, what are you giving them credit for? Darvin Ham? Uh-oh. Gabe Vincent? Rui Hachimura? D'Lo? What are you giving them credit for? If LeBron leaves, I don't know how things look for the Lakers. Is Anthony Davis to follow suit? It's possible. Let's not have short-term memory here. There's a world where the Lakers are not in a good position post-LeBron. But again, I bring this up to say, if Bronny is drafted by a contender, is that what pushes LeBron to that organization? There are odds for team to draft Bronny, with the Lakers as a huge favorite relative to the market at plus 190. You get 10-1 on the Sixers, 10-1 on the Thunder, 10-1 Knicks, 10-1 Cavs. Well, that 10-1 range is pretty interesting, isn't it? Sixers, Thunder, Knicks, Cavs. If I put LeBron on any one of those teams, where do they stack up amongst the league? If LeBron was on this current Thunder, they are Western Conference favorites, maybe title favorites. If I put LeBron on the Sixers, they are, at worst, the second choice in the East. The same is true of the Knicks. The same is true of the Cavs. So if you're LeBron and one of those organizations drafts Bronny, well, now there's no ring-chasing allegation. It's, I'm going to play with my son while competing for a championship. That's all that really is. And if you're these teams, by the way, using those four, Is that a great move for you? Well, if you're the Sixers, you've been desperately trying to get over this hump. We'll see tonight how it goes. The Embiid stuff has been frustrating because you know he's great, but the health is a huge problem. And his postseason stuff hasn't translated as seamlessly, though this year it felt like it would be different. The 50-point game in this series suggests different. He's battling 3 to 4 different injuries right now. But would adding LeBron change the Sixers' outlook? It feels like yes. If you're the Cavs, we just talked to Brian Fonseca. A lot of rumors about Donovan Mitchell leaving. The Cavs don't want to go back to irrelevancy. LeBron swoops back in with the Sun, a little homecoming. Is that a mistake for the Cavs? I wouldn't say so. If you're the Knicks, and you know it, Knicks fans, you've been chasing the big fish free agent when LeBron left Cleveland the first time, and you thought you'd bring LeBron in. This would be it. And Knicks fans who have spent a lot of time hating LeBron because he ultimately didn't choose the Knicks would flip on a dime, fall in love, and bring us a damn championship. That would be the MO. So for the Knicks fans, would that be a miss? No. And if you're the Thunder, what are you drafting for? I mean, what are you drafting for? Youngest team in NBA history to win a series? You don't need more picks. You don't. I mean, you can let the roster progress naturally. I'm not saying blow up the roster to put LeBron on it, right? But if you could spend literally any pick on Bronny and it gives you LeBron, that's a pretty great situation to be in. And that's why when those NBA 2025 title odds come out, you have to keep tabs on the LeBron potential destination. We'll talk to Joe Madden next, right here on SportsGrid.
Tory Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze is not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also it's a great pick to have the Bears as the winner.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad, bad, bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we are underway in Indiana with the Bucks up early, 13-10 here on the Pacers. Lillard's on the board with 5 early ones. Halliburton 2 for 2 from 3 as well, so he's got 6 quick ones here. We'll watch this series, watch this game play out, and see if Milwaukee can extend it. We're going to talk about the one NHL series that could be decided tonight in a moment. But before, I want to finish out the baseball board. To help us do both, it's Joe Madden, live on a Thursday night. Joe, baseball-wise, only one game left, and that would be Astros-Guardians. Any action for you in this game tonight?
Yeah, I've got to look at the Guardians here. Looking at this pitching matchup, I really do think that Guards have the edge on the mound. Logan Allen getting the start here, 3-1 on the season with a 5.46 ERA. So that's not saying much. It's not a great pitching matchup here, but he's been so much better than Aragati coming out here, getting the start for the Houston Astros. I think he continues to struggle in this one. Lots of people expecting him to come a little bit back down to earth and have a solid performance. I just can't see it. And it almost feels trappy here looking at the Guards when you look at these matching these pitchers, matching them up versus each other, because Aragati should come out a little bit stronger, but I'm not buying it. I think the Cleveland Guardians, even if Logan Allen lets us want to get away from him at the start of this game, we look at the Guards and we look at their bullpen, and I think they'll be able to pull things back together. So I'm going to take the Guardians here. You can take them straight up on the money line right around that plus 116. I also think it's worth a look on that reverse run line laying 1.5 at plus 176, Kevin.
Well, all right. Got a little reverse run line action. We've mentioned, though, fading the Astros, if you've been doing it since the beginning of this season, has been a profitable strategy. Joe, let's get over to the ice here. We can talk some big picture stuff if there's time remaining. But there's a huge game between the Bruins and the Maple Leafs, and I feel like this series has to be as frustrating as possible for Toronto fans. If you would have said, hey, you won 2 in Boston, you got to feel like, hey, worst case scenario, we're going back home, game 6, to win this thing, and instead they're here trying to save their lives and force a potential Game 7 where they'd have to win in Boston again. It starts tonight. No Austin Matthews. What are you looking for?
I don't think Toronto has enough in its tank to be able to get another win here. They gave it. They're all in that last game. The heart really came out. I just don't know if they can repeat that production that they had in the last one. Wall was absolutely fantastic in net. We saw playmakers like Matthew Knives step up, being able to get that overtime goal. I don't think the Boston Bruins come out and make the mistakes they saw in the last game. I really am looking for Boston almost as a wake-up call in that last game. I think they thought they had an easy number over the Toronto Maple Leafs without Austin Matthews on the ice, and they were already counting the win before they stepped out there. So I'm looking for Boston to come out with more fire, with more effort, and I do think you circle Brad Marchand here of the Boston Bruins. He's been incredibly strong in this series, except for that last game. In the last game, he was held completely off the board, not able to get any points, and I do think he answers back in this one. I'm going to take him for the anytime goal at plus 230. I also like the look on his points, 2+ points in this one. That's coming in at plus 258. Now, I don't know, Kevin, if you watched that game and you saw the linesman take out Brad Marchand in that game when he thought he was going at one of the Toronto players, but it was bad. It was really bad what we saw. I'm glad he didn't get hurt, but I do think because of that, Brad Marchand will come out with just extra drive in this one. So give me the Bruins on the money line. Give me Brad Marchand for the anytime goal at plus 280 as well.
One thing that caught my eye was Pasta coming off of a game where he didn't have a point, potentially for an assist, which you could find at around plus 100. I thought would be a decent look as well. The Maple Leafs offense is really hard to trust. Again, I know they grabbed the win, but they're not lighting the net a ton here, lighting the lamp. There you go, hockey guy. So it's just one of those things. The Boston offense is going to have to carry things along. Joe, one series that's set, and we'll talk certainly throughout the weekend about everything going on with the ice, but it's that Rangers-Hurricane series. And a lot of people, here on the East Coast, they know they're playing a really tough team. The series line's very interesting. It's kind of going back and forth. What are your early thoughts on the series between Carolina and New York?
Yeah, I look at the New York Rangers, and I think they have every ability to be able to make it a complete battle out there with the Carolina Hurricanes. We look at both of these teams. Both of these teams have depth on both sides. Fantastic goaltending as well. So I don't think this is going to be an easy series for either of these teams. We look at the Carolina Hurricanes. They're coming off the battles with the Islanders, and the New York Rangers with the Washington Capitals. So they weren't playing teams at the same level as them, and it showed with how quickly they finished out those series. I do think it's a deep series between these two. The New York Rangers will have to make sure they stay out of that penalty box because the Carolina Hurricanes will capitalize if they don't. It's going to be a complete battle. It's going to come down to goaltending. Frederik Andersen versus Igor Shesterkin. I can hardly wait, Kevin. It's going to be fantastic out there on the ice.
Yeah, again, it is a huge series. I think it is possible the winner leaves Cup favorites. Are you surprised, Joe, that Carolina, drawing the tough matchup in New York, are still Stanley Cup favorites right now? Plus 390, Edmonton, that second choice, at plus 470.
I am really shocked with how the books are putting them there and not looking at other playmakers, especially the Florida Panthers. You look at how strong the Florida Panthers were versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they had a harder path to get out of that first round than the Carolina Hurricanes did, and they did it fantastically. So I do think it's weird the books have Carolina as such a big favorite, but this team does have all the elements. You really look at them. They've got the goaltending, they've got the defense, and they got the offense out there. It's just going to be so hard versus the New York Rangers because the New York Rangers have those playmakers as well, have the ability to get things done. So it's going to be wild out there, Kevin.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to follow. And again, there is action tomorrow on the ice. I imagine Joe will probably be here as well, breaking it down. It's going to be Nashville and Vancouver. Joe, appreciate it as always. Best of luck tonight.
Best of luck, everyone out there on the ice. Thank you.
All right, great stuff as always. Coming up next, I do want to go back to the baseball for a moment here and talk some movement that we've seen in the market since opening day, especially in the NL and the NL Cy Young market, which began with Spencer Strider. Everyone knowing that if he stayed healthy, he'd run away with it. Well, unfortunately, he's not healthy. Where's the value in this market? There is some. We'll talk about it on the other side. Game Time Decisions.
Corey Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze is not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also they picked up the Bears as the winner.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad, bad, bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Back to you right here. It's Game Time Decisions. I know it is a light baseball night, but I do want to talk about some baseball movement. By the way, on deck, Joe Lisi. We're going to talk a little bit about the 2025 NFL draft markets and Shedeur Sanders, who has been a part of the conversation recently beyond his draft prospects, as well as some NFL Rookie of the Year markets and different leaders that we could potentially take some action on as we are now 1 week removed from the NFL draft. But the reason I wanted to do just a few markets here, might hit a couple over the weekend as well. Don't worry, Game Time Decisions with you. 11 a.m. start time, East Coast here on the grid, Saturday and Sunday, is we're a month in now, right? A little more than a month, if you will. And the NL Cy Young market is one of the biggest movers because the preseason favorite, unfortunately, injured very early on. And that's Spencer Strider. You can see that gap there, right? Zach Wheeler was at 9-1, and then everybody's 12 or longer. The idea on Strider, with the way he can strike people out, and of course the Braves having the best record in baseball, if you're going to factor wins in it all, is he'll run away with this if healthy. Tommy John surgery, Strider's done for the year. So how have the markets moved around? Well, Zach Wheeler's now slotted in to the favorite, so it bumped up, but he's pretty short at plus 270. Tyler Glasnow's plus 550, and then we start to bring in 12-1 Peralta Cease, and then here's the Imanaga at 15-1. There's a name not on this board that's worth mentioning as well. Now, some of the guys that have not been able to hold up here, Zach Gallen, Logan Webb, Yamamoto has actually stayed consistent, which is interesting, and Blake Snell as well. Here is when you look at Zach Wheeler and Glasnow, they both have good numbers. But if the season ended today and you voted for either one of those guys, it would be a bad vote. It would be a difficult vote to justify. You would basically have to say you're going off of strikeouts and name value. That's really what it comes down to. If you look right now at the NL pitching leaders, it is a two-man race. One of those is Shota Imanaga. Currently sat at 15-1. Leads the National League in ERA. Tied for the National League in wins. Second in the National League for wins above replacement for pitchers. And is second in a lot of the advanced statistic categories. So Imanaga is an interesting bet at 15-1. I am tempted to bet him at plus 340 for the NL's Rookie of the Year award. He is currently a co-favorite along Yamamoto. I mentioned wanting to bet Yamamoto preseason in that market because the idea is he would challenge for the NL Cy Young. I pulled back because I didn't want to bet any pitchers' futures too early due to the injury risk. We're not there yet. I'm still waiting. But basically, the Yamamoto logic applies to Imanaga, who is 100% in your NL Cy Young race. And he is here through what he's done. Yamamoto is in here right now through name value. But again, if the season ended today, Imanaga might lose out. If he did, it would be to Ranger Suarez. Ironic enough, with a Philadelphia Philly as the favorite. Ranger Suarez is first. He's tied for first with wins. He is second in ERA, first in wins above replacement for starting pitchers in the National League, and is first in every single advanced statistic you can possibly find for National League pitchers. The only thing that pull Imanaga and Suarez back would be the strikeouts. Now, it's also pedigree, of course. It's the idea, can these guys keep it up? But pitching can at times be a little fluky. You can bank on your Zach Wheelers, your Garrett Coles having very good seasons and being in the mix, but having a one-time breakout year, it happens. And again, if the season ended today, it's Imanaga or Ranger Suarez. Any other vote, you really cannot justify. 15-1 Imanaga, 20-1 Ranger Suarez. Not bad positions. If you want to start to attack this market now, the Zach Wheeler bet is completely unjustifiable based on the current statistics. Let's take this over quickly to the NL Central. Thought it was worth bringing up because we've seen enough movement here where the St. Louis Cardinals were at one point your favorite. And that is no longer the case. Jumped by two teams in the Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers are in first. Nightmares for me, who played an under win total through the month of April. They swept the Mets to start. You knew that was a nightmare right away. Nobody's been better as a dog than Milwaukee. I was right that the schedule was tough. It just didn't make much of a difference. They are one game in front of the Chicago Cubs. Really, the big takeaway for me right now, is don't bet St. Louis. I know it's early. It feels far more likely that we see the Cardinals sell off by the time we get to the deadline than make a run really to win this NL Central. We're coming up against the break. When we come back, who is going first next year? 2025 NFL Draft. We'll break it down with Joe Lisi.
Tory Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze is not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also it's a great pick to have the Bears as the winner.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Live on SportsGrid, it is a Thursday night. We're finishing out that first quarter in Indiana. Good start for the Middleton bet. Good start for the Indiana Pacers, up last look 32-24. We'll get to that game in a little bit, but we're going to talk to Joe Lisi here about some 2025 NFL draft. We'll put our eyes back also to the rookies here and what they could bring to the conversation this season. But I thought the 2025 NFL draft was worth bringing up for a few reasons. One, we have odds. And last year, when we were able to look a year out, it was minus Caleb, and that never changed. It was Caleb the whole way. You now look here, we're starting a favorite at plus 300. There's going to be movement, and it means you can take some long shots, and if I know Joe Lisi, there are long shots. I have one right up his alley. So we'll get to that when it's time. But what stands out when you look here with the top 6 odds, 5 of them are quarterback because it's a quarterback's world. And we're going to talk again about, is a quarterback actually going to go first? But Shedeur Sanders, the second option using the FanDuel Sportsbook, a plus 100 favorite on DraftKings. It makes it look like that number's not good. Is Shedeur Sanders the guy if it is quarterback going one? Let's bring in Joe Lisi, of course, you can catch throughout the network here, all over pro football today, college football today, football full circle, Carver and Lisi, top-rated radio show. The guy's an absolute megastar, and he's the best. Joe, my question to you to start this off, Shedeur Sanders, if a quarterback is going first overall, do you believe it's Deion's son and the kid out of Colorado?
No. How about that? And thanks for having me. And the reason why I say that, Kev, is it's not that Shedeur Sanders isn't a prolific quarterback. Pure pocket passer, could throw for 500 yards in a game. It's really, when was the last time we had a pure number 1 quarterback have potentially a sub 500 record. And does that hurt maybe the resume of Shedeur Sanders, big picture, from being maybe the top overall pick or maybe the second or third overall pick? I think that is maybe the question that we have to ask, because you can go over the last 20, 22, 24 years, the quarterback with the best resume in regards to sub elite is maybe Jared Goff at 7-6. So that is the concern for me. I wouldn't be putting a 4-1 shot on Shedeur Sanders right here, right now.
So I think it's a great point, because Colorado was not supposed to be good. This is kind of then when we break into the college football end of this. And I know personally, I'm too far out to tell you what I think of Colorado. I know Lisi's not. That's why he's the best. But that Buffs defense can't be that bad again. And Shedeur, look, he was able to hang with some of the... Now, they're going over the Big 12, too. But the Big 12 is supposed to be open. The two best teams in the Big 12 are gone. That's Texas and Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma State's still there. I know they brought in some really good Pac-12 teams like Utah. But that Colorado team should be better. Maybe just record-wise, Joe. But to your point, if they're not, they're not going to get forgiven if in year 2 they're a 4-win football team. So the question then, I guess, Joe, it's not just, though, the on-field stuff. Do you think, and it's so bizarre, but when LeVar Ball was being LeVar Ball, people were like, is this going to knock Lonzo? Is it going to knock LaMelo? And really it didn't. They both went comfortably inside the top 5. And I feel stupid comparing LeVar to Deion. Deion is an all-time great. We know that. But that Twitter stuff that we saw over the past few days, you just know it's going to rub people the wrong way. Do you think there are going to be franchises who say, you know what, I'm not dealing with this, and they push Shedeur aside because of just some of the stuff that you get out of Colorado, which, again, I'm a fan of, but I know a lot of people aren't.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of Deion as well, big time at Florida State and obviously Hall of Fame career in the NFL. It is possible. Here's the thing, though. I think it's more possible if they underachieve and get under and play under their 5.5 win total this year. To your point, if they are 4-8 again, I think it could be a benefit if all of a sudden they are a 9 or a 10 win football team and Shedeur Sanders throws for over 4,000 yards, 35 plus touchdowns, and limits the interceptions, let's say, to only under 5 or less, a la Bo Nix, that had 45-3 with a 78% completion percentage, then it would benefit him, right? So that is the concern. Mm-hmm. You're not getting great value at 4-1 right now. Carson Beck, that plays for the front-runner Georgia Bulldogs, they're a 3-1 shot. He had multiple 300-yard games. He's a pure pocket passer. If he duplicates that type of productivity, he's going to be right there, and it just comes down to the type of quarterback that you want. But to your point, Kev, about the defense being better, if the defense is better, that means that Travis Hunter, his teammate, at 22-1 could have a dynamic career in regards to Boulder. And then I would take a shot on him as opposed to Shedeur because of the versatility, defense, and then wide receiver. You're getting 22-1 odds.
Yeah, so let's get there, and then we'll circle back to the quarterbacks. We have some time. Is this going to be a quarterback is a really big question. There are odds for this. Minus 165 quarterback, plus 125 field. Now, the idea is probably for the books. Quarterback is what matters, and even if the team who finishes with the worst record doesn't want one, they can trade out. If you look right now, Joe, at I'm using the Super Bowl odds and the teams that are 100-1 or longer. Cardinals, Giants, Titans, Commanders, Broncos, Patriots, Panthers. Patriots and Commanders should in no world be considering quarterback, right? Cardinals, I could see it. Giants, absolutely. Titans, absolutely. Broncos and Panthers are interesting. How much time are you going to give Bryce Young? Is Sean Payton really that committed to Bo Nix? Are you willing to fade a quarterback being the first pick in next year's draft?
Yes, just because, when you look at the quarterbacks that we have, Shedeur Sanders, Carson Beck, and I'll throw Nussmeier in there, that is, I believe, 25 or 30-1. He's a deep shot as well. they're not as mobile as Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, right? Shador can move, but by no means is he rushing for 150 yards in a game the way Jaden Daniels did against Alabama. Same thing the way Caleb can take over a game with his legs, right? So I would bet against that. I would go potentially defense, like I said, Travis Hunter. I would also go, Williams, the playmaker from Georgia. Why? Because Georgia players just translate first round to the NFL, and the way Kirby coaches them up, that's the way I would go.
So for me, and Lisi, I am not doing this to appease Lisi, but one thing that has always caught my eye through drafts are guys that we expect to be first picks, and then people just convince themselves, I've talked about this player too long, I'm good. And there are a pair of LSU guys. Will Campbell, who's 25 to 1, very well could be the first offensive lineman off the board. And this 60-1 number feels completely fake. I mean, the Harold Perkins number's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy, Joe. I mean, people were talking about Perkins for a Heisman, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What the heck are we doing here at 60-1?
Well, because he was an edge rusher when he solidified that SEC West championship, and then they put him into outside linebacker, and they limited his pass rushing. They get back to that. He could certainly be at 60-1, the first overall pick.
It is going to be hilarious. You all wait. Next year, 2020 NFL Draft, when I am significantly higher on the LSU kids next year than the ones from this year. But that's how things are going to spin. I do want to ask Lisi, though, about fading Shador, but still looking quarterback, because that gets tricky. Carson Beck's the favorite at plus 300. Quinn Ewers is 14-1. Cam Ward, I know he doesn't like Drew Aller at 19. So if it's quarterback and it's not Sanders, who? Where do we go? Plus some potential value for this year's rookie class. That's all next. We're live right here on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh joined by Joe Lisi on Game Time Decisions.
Tory Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze is not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also they picked to have the Bears as the winner.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Back right here on SportsGrid, Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh joined by Joe Lisi, talking a little 2025 NFL Draft, and then we'll circle back to the 2024 NFL Draft. But the 2025 odds are really interesting, and I think part of the reason I'm so captivated by it, and I think Joe is as well, and I'm sure some of you are, is last year we knew it was Caleb, right? I mean, truly, and I think about the season that Jaden Daniels had, right? He never pushed Caleb to go first. Never. He pushed Drake May out of the second slot, but it was Caleb in a runaway. We have a completely open board here. And Carson Beck is the favorite. I mean, look, I like Carson Beck. I had some money on him to win a Heisman Trophy last year, but I can also tell you that Carson Beck is someone that could be moved off the position here to go first overall. You know, Lisi, there is one name we haven't mentioned quarterback-wise. I did see a mock draft actually suggest the Carolina Panthers at 35-1 select an SEC quarterback with a ton of speed, game-breaking ability, and that's Jalen Milroe. I mean, could you see it? Could you see it possibly being Jalen Milroe at 1?
Oh, you got me all excited. I was thinking Jackson Dart, my selection at 40-1. I mean, Milroe has better odds than Jackson Dart. He's 35-1 to be the first player off the board. Here's the problem. New scheme with Kalen DeBoer, Isaiah Bond is now on Texas. We don't know what Alabama's going to look like, but if he just puts up Jaden Daniels type of numbers, then it's possible he's a raw prospect. If he can, increase his completion percentage, cut down on the sacks. We knew he took a ton of sacks holding on to the football. There is the potential for him to skyrocket. So I like Jackson Dart, though, too. 6'3", 220, and being tutored and mentored by Lane Kiffin, that's not bad value as well because Ole Miss is loaded this year.
Look, and here's the thing. I got an update to my phone today that said there's some buzz around Donovan Clingan going first overall in the NBA draft. Keep your eyes on this market throughout your college football season. Guys that are going to compete for the Heisman Trophy and guys that are going to compete for national championships are going to have a real chance to break out. And it's why we're talking about fading Shooter Sanders, because he's not supposed to really be in that conversation. Like, I think I could beat Dylan Gabriel's 100-1. I think I can beat that number, right? Because at Oregon, he's supposed to throw for 40 touchdowns and complete 75% of his passes, right? But is Dylan Gabriel really going first overall? That's the tricky end of it there. But, Joe, I think this is going to be a market that as we are doing our college football todays, we should really be keeping tabs on here because there's going to be, I think, plenty of movement. I really do.
No, there is. And obviously the exposure of some of these teams, like you mentioned, Georgia, LSU, who's going to be good. That's why I think Jackson Dart will get the exposure with Ole Miss. And you really have to put a pulse on who's going to be in the public spotlight. But, there are 12 teams now in the playoffs. So, teams that are potentially 10-2, 9-3 might be in the mix. And then if they get a run where they take their team to a championship or at least a national championship appearance, they're going to be there. So I think it's great value. I like your pick about Perkins. I also like Travis Hunter and Michael Williams. Michael Williams, again, is only 19 years old, all SEC second teamer. Coming off the edge, he could still gain some muscle. And we saw how many dominant defensive players were taken in the first round a few years ago by the Eagles and all the rest of the NFL teams. They love them dogs, baby.
And look, I'll just tell this to Joe's point. People we use mock drafts to bet these. Dane Brugler of The Athletic, well known, right? Michael Williams, first overall pick, Carolina Panthers. So that's 22-1. Look, everyone, Lisi loves a long shot, but 22-1. It's can we fade quarterback? And the answer is yes. There's just a bunch of different spots we can throw it around. All right, Lisi, let's talk a little bit about this rookie class. Now, these are going to be markets that we're going to dive in a lot to as we get closer, but we're a week out, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that's kind of developed for you. Most regular season passing yards for the rookie quarterback position, we have odds on the top 6, Caleb, J.J. McCarthy, and Jaden Daniels. Of course, the leaders there, Bo Nix, Drake May, and Michael Penix, all with odds as well. Of those quarterbacks, is there an early number that stands out to you to potentially lead this group this season in passing yards?
I told you, and it's not because I'm a homer. It's Jaden Daniels, because I think they give him the keys to the bus early, and he's got Terry McLaurin there. They're going to have a wide open offense with Cliff Kingsbury. It's going to be similar to what he ran in regards to LSU. So I think it is Jaden Daniels hand down. It's not that Caleb doesn't have the arm or the talent. It's Matt Eberflus is there, the human offensive anchor, that once they get out by maybe 7 or 10 points, all of a sudden the play sheet starts to shake. Then what?
Yeah, I think Jaden's interesting. JJ, of course, in that offense, right? Sometimes people try and pair it, though, to the win-loss column. So that gets very interesting. The Jaden Daniels market that I will, if they probably won't because it's such a bad running back class, most rookie rushing yards. I want to see the Jaden number in that market. He might be the favorite, behind Brooks, if anything. I don't know if anybody, right? I mean, he'd probably be the second choice. What about receiving yards, Joe? Because that market's out as well. Marvin, a plus 150 favorite. Neighbors, Keon Coleman, Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey, Roma Dunze, Brian Thomas. Any of those guys interesting?
It would be Brian Thomas and Neighbors, and I know it's going against conventional wisdom, but I think Neighbors has the ability to put up a 1,000-yard season along with Thomas as well. I think they're both polished enough to really hit the ground running. Concern, obviously, for Brian Thomas is the offensive philosophy, but Neighbors, again, with Brian Dable there, they could dial it up, and he's got Wan'Dale Robinson in the lineup as well.
The Marvin situation is really interesting because his plus 150, worth it, but his over-under is 1,000 yards. And you think about the talent and the competition he's going to have for targets, which isn't going to be a ton. And I think the big thing he has going for him, Joe, is the quarterback in Kyler relative to Neighbors, right? I think that's a huge boost. Brian Thomas is going to compete with other guys for targets. Christian Kirk still there. Evan Ingram. Jacksonville has guys, right? They brought in Gabe Davis. So I think that's kind of the thing. The guy that's interesting to me a little bit, at least, is, it sounds ridiculous, I know, but it's Jalen Polk. I mean, who does New England have? 25-1, Joe. I think it's a tempting number.
It is. It depends on who's throwing the football, right? I mean, is it going to be May?
Yeah.
Is it going to be Jacoby Brissett? That's the main question.
Could Xavier Legette find that connection with Bryce Young? We're going to have a lot of fun with these rookies. Joe, great stuff as always. Kentucky Derby's next.
Tory Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze is not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also it's a great pick to have the Bears as the winner.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We're back right here on Sports Grid, and we are approaching the Kentucky Derby. It is remarkable, and it is without fail. But no matter how much or how little you bet horses, the Kentucky Derby rolls around, and everybody likes to get in the mix. And to help us, if that's going to be the case, is Dan Illman. Dan, appreciate you joining us here for a little to talk some Derby.
Appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks for having me on. Should be a fun Derby this year. Some interesting contenders from all over.
Yeah, and I want to get to some of the top names at the board there, with I believe the two favorites looking like Sierra Leone and Fierceness, and how you feel about those two horses relative to the rest of the pack here heading into Saturday.
Well, Fierceness, I think, is the horse with the most natural ability in this race. He was last year's 2-year-old champion. He shows brilliant early speed when he gets out of the gate, and he's coming out of the fastest race on the way into the Derby. That was the Florida Derby, where he just put the boots to a very weak field and destroyed them from start to finish. That's the sort of natural talent Fierceness has. The problem is, Fierceness has shown that he can be had when things don't go his way. He's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde type, and with 20 horses looking for position, a crush of them going into the first turn, if Fierceness doesn't get away great, gets in behind horses, maybe he's not the kind of horse you want at a relatively short price. Conversely, Sierra Leone is a horse that likes to rally from the back of the pack. So he's at the mercy of two situations. The early pace, it needs to be fast. It usually is in the Kentucky Derby. And then the trip. He's got to be able to weave his way through 19 other horses or go all the way around them, and that's never easy as well. That being said, Sierra Leone has been cut out to be a good horse since day one. He has a beautiful pedigree. He sold for something like $2.3 million as a yearling, the most expensive auction purchase at the prestigious Saratoga yearling sale. He looked so good as a 2-year-old, even in his loss, the Remsen Stakes. He had all the momentum, but he lacked the killer instinct. This year for Chad Brown, he has the killer instinct. Blinkers came on, and he's looked very good kicking down fields in his last 2 races. You're going to know him in the stretch of the Kentucky Derby, and I think he's the horse to beat.
And I'm curious, Dan, look, when it gets to the Derby again, there's going to be people who want to take their long shots, right? But as anyone who's bet horses to any amount know, there's a lot of ways you can play it, right? Your boxes, trifecta, whatever it might be. Do you feel it is important to identify one of these two at the top to pair with your longer shots if you're betting this race?
I think that's the key, and I think if of the two, I would be keying on Sierra Leone and then trying to find some long shots, maybe underneath an exactas or trifectas, and a couple come to mind. One of them is Forever Young, a horse coming from Japan, and it's hard to evaluate the Japanese form, but when I've seen this horse run, he just does everything right. He's so professional and tactical. He can win from on the lead. He can win from off the pace. They've sent him internationally already. He's won in Saudi Arabia. He's won in Dubai. He's won in Japan. And he's the kind of horse that has the right trainer, who's already brought a couple of horses from Japan to win major races in the United States, winning 2 Breeders' Cup races at Del Mar a couple of years ago. He's a very talented horse, and it'll be interesting to see if he's kind of the wise guy horse that people gravitate to because of the stranger and because of the story aspect, or if he gets lost in the shuffle because he's so hard to analyze.
And I think that is something that I've heard is a horse coming over from Japan. It creates unknown, but it creates variance, right? And it means that while maybe you don't have as much information, neither do your odds makers. And of course, look, they're going to set their numbers and live with it, but maybe this maybe this horse should be significantly shorter. At the Derby is where you catch him, right? Because by the time we move on, you get a lot more information. Any other longer shot horses, Dan, that are catching your attention right now?
I think Track Phantom is kind of an interesting horse that's completely lost in the shuffle. This horse might be 35 to 1 at post time. He has brilliant early speed. There are significant questions. Can he get this distance? But in his last race, the Louisiana Derby, he set a very, very fast pace, and he was the only part of that fast pace still around at the end. While all the other horses he was battling with were gasping for breath in the final 16th, he was still fighting it out and made it relatively close with a horse like Sierra Leone. Maybe he gets a nice trip, getting blinkers on for the first time for Hall of Fame trainer Steve Asmussen.
And I'll ask you this quickly, Dan. As it stands on Thursday, weather looks good for the Derby?
Weather looks okay for the Derby, bad for the Oaks on Friday. We're expecting a lot of rain, so there might be still some moisture in the track on Saturday. Thankfully, the major contenders have proven themselves on wet going.
All right, awesome stuff. And Dan, I know we'll talk again on Saturday, getting people set for the Derby. Look forward to it. Appreciate your insight.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, awesome stuff there. And again, the Derby coverage will continue throughout SportsGrid as we get you set for that big race. Coming up next, we'll talk to Dave Sharapan and put some eyes on the live numbers between Pacers and Bucks.
Tory Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze is not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also it's a great pick to have the Bears as the winner.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Live on SportsGrid, Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh with you on this Thursday night. 10-point game right now with about 2 to go between the Pacers and the Bucks. We'll hit that halftime line with Dave Sharapan. But before, as we bring the consig in the mix here on Game Time Decisions, let's pick up the horse conversation quickly, Dave, and just your thoughts heading into the Derby, your experience with this event, and kind of, I mean, look, I know it might sound kind of silly, but advice to people looking to get in the mix with the Kentucky Derby.
Oh man, this is the week that everybody bets horses that never bet horses. And the reason for doing so is because these pools with the pari-mutuel betting, you're betting with everybody else. You're betting, there's no book better. Everybody's in the same pool. So the more bets, the higher the payouts and the higher the amount of money in the pot. So I hit the trifecta 2 years ago. I'm not having any more kids. I've used this line all week on BVB. Not having any more kids, but if I get another dog, I might name it Rich Strike because it changed everything. It's the first time I ever hit the try in the Derby. It was a monster. I've hit win tickets. I've hit exacta tickets, but the try, was a big win. So you can play a bunch of different ways. The 50-cent try is not an expensive ticket to, use multiple horses in multiple legs. The superfecta can become expensive, but the superfecta I mean, if you hit that, you took a couple days off. You'll be taking a couple years off if you hit the Superfecta in the Kentucky Derby, if the right combination comes in. I mean, we're talking minimum 6 figures for the right combination. Sometimes it can be into the, $500,000 with the Superfecta. And this race, Saturday, there's 2 favorites at the top. K-Dub, the favorites have a hard time winning this race because it's a lot of traffic. It's like driving across that GW bridge where you're at. A lot of people going in a little area. There's a little, but on a horse track, there's a lot of bumping, there's a lot of rubbing, there's a lot of racing, and you got fierceness out on the outside, and you got Sierra Leone second away from the rail, so it might mess up. They got to get a nice trip, and I don't mean to sound like a horse guy, but this is the week to do it. We've had horse guys on all week. I've talked to people from Churchill all week. They're there on. They're going to be on the coverage on Friday, tomorrow on the Oaks. They're going to be on the coverage on Saturday. You get a lot of varying opinions, and it's like that movie Let It Ride, which if you haven't seen, you must see. It's one of the ultimate gambling movies of all time. Guy spends some time at the track. He goes around and he asks everybody who they like, crosses them off the list as they tell him, and he's left with a couple options, and he hits it. It's amazing. Yeah, it's really good.
That's not bad. What I think is so interesting, and I've been trying to rack my brain. There is really nothing like the Kentucky Derby from the betting angle, where people swoop in to bet something they never bet. I know more people bet on the Super Bowl than any other game, but people will get in the mix with NFL bets throughout the year, right? It's not like when we get the NBA Finals, we're like, hey, man, look, I know you guys are brand new to basketball betting. Let's get into what a points, rebounds, and assists are, right?
Yeah.
That's not the case.
Nope.
The Kentucky Derby, you go from 0 to this is the biggest thing of the day, which – and the betting can be very straightforward to win the race, right? But then you get all of a sudden trifecta, nobody knows what's going on. Now plenty of people do. But again, it is truly one of a kind. The swoop in level, I guess, is what I'm talking about, Dave. Where out of nowhere, horse betting matters. It goes from 0 to 100. It's crazy.
Correct. And if the story hits everybody right, it continues to the Preakness, which, the Triple Crown possibility. Not on the same level, but the Kentucky Derby is like, think about this. There's people that bet the Masters every year because it's golf and it's the biggest one and everyone knows it, okay? They don't hit it, and then they don't bet golf again the rest of the year unless it's a story. It's Tiger, or they hit a Scotty Scheffler ticket and they want to continue doing it. They don't usually go on. No one bets the Kentucky Derby and then says, oh, well, I wonder what's racing on Monday at Aqueduct. I'm going to go look at that. Or, hey, I wonder what's going on down in Keeneland or Santa Anita. That usually doesn't happen. But, to put it into sports terms, I used to do this all the time and explain it to people because they would show up on Friday for the weekend here in Vegas and say, how do I do this? Win, place, and show is first, second, or third. Exacta betting is first and second place. So think of it like a 2-game parlay. You got to hit them in that order. Now you can box them. They can come in this way, or reversed. Trifecta is the first 3 spots. That's a 3-game parlay. Superfecta is the first 4 spots. Now, to give you an idea, with a guy on the show this week, he said with these number of horses in the race, there's 380 exacta box combinations, okay, or exacta combinations. 380. You box them, you get both. Okay, good luck. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
But it's fun because you set up the whole, week, month, quarter if you hit one of these monsters.
Yeah, it's again, it's a one-of-a-kind, fascinating event. Dave and I are going to talk Sixers-Knicks in a little bit, but before, Pacers-Bucks, 59-45 is at right now, but Dame's going to the line for a pair. What did you make of this game? What did you hear people trying to figure out? Lillard in, Giannis out is how it settled, and kind of what the odds makers were doing throughout the day with this number.
So this morning it was as high as 8.5, and it started to trickle down with leaks that one or both were going to play. And then as the number started to move, was doing BVB and then another show, and I was like, one of them's playing tonight, the way this number closed. I mean, it went down to, I saw 5, and I was like, geez, could they both play? Bettors were betting on that information. It hasn't helped, K-Dub. I got the game on. I've been watching it, going, this is Indiana's time. This is their game. They're at home. They're supposed to close out this series. They're playing like it. Everything that you would have expected from a team in this position, they've done in the first half. 59-47, they're going to halftime. So I don't know what you would need, Kate. Like, how much would I have to give you to go, yeah, you know what? Give me the Bucks to come back and make this close. You want 12.5? Do you want 15? What do you want?
Yeah, I think it could definitely get away from Milwaukee. You're right, 12 at the break. If the Pacers' offense is going, Dame's going to have to get red hot, is essentially what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
So at 59, you're paced for 118. And I know this is not this simple, but basically, Indiana's on pace for 118. The Bucks are 71 away from that number. Just to give people an idea, right? Of kind of where things are.
Yeah.
It's Dame has to get going. And what are the Lillard halftime numbers? 3 of 8, 14 points, 2 of 7. See, the funny thing is 14 from Dame at the break isn't bad. But it's a lot of free throws. He's the only one who's made a 3. So, look, I know you have to be careful box score watching. Sometimes things are simple. Hey, we're 2 of 13 from 3. Oh, I know what's wrong. I figured it out. I know where this went left. I got the answer, everybody.
Yeah.
Make some threes. We're going to keep shooting them. 13's not enough, by the way, probably.
Yeah.
You got to create the
scores
variance.
14 and they're down 12. They're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. We're going to talk some Knicks Sixers on the other side. We're live for you here on SportsGrid.
Tory Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze is not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also it's a great pick to have the Bears as the winner.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
It's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We're back with you right here, Game Time Decisions, and behind me, the big three of this series so far between the Knicks and the Sixers. Shout out to the trio who have all had incredible games, all top games of their career, all things considered, right? Embiid with a 50-piece, Tyrese Maxey, the 46 that he put up against the Knicks in the Garden in OT, tremendous. And then Brunson broke the actual postseason single-game record for the Knicks with a 47-point performance in Game 4. I want to bring this up through the series leader market and also through tonight's numbers as well, because Jalen Brunson is now a comfortable favorite to lead this series in total points. Brunson is in front, which is key because he also has the highest number at 33.5. Embiid's at 30 and a hook, and then you got the Maxey 26.5 number. For Brunson, I am tempted to fade him. I never was able to get in on some of the bigger numbers. It's been a whirlwind of a series, and it's not one of the regrets. I have some numbers I've missed out on. The NFL draft, but let me not play the blame game. That's on me. I got to find the time. Nevertheless, fading Brunson now is a little tempting because the efficiency has been abysmal. And can you get on the road one of these games out of Brunson, right? Underneath 25. If so, who could catch him? I do think it's only Embiid because Embiid has that ceiling. But Embiid is not healthy. He's just not. We know this. So how do we attack that? I think you might be better off playing Embiid alts really more than anything because he's still going to need to give you about a 40-point night. If he gives you the 40-point night, you'd think it's a win. So then you got to fend off Brunson in Game 7, which feels tricky. So all in all, of this trio, the guy I'm interested in is Embiid. If you make me make a play, it's plus 180 to lead this game tonight in scoring and just kind of live with that result. Dave Sharapan is still here, and Consig, I have to bring up to you a discrepancy from the other day because it was significantly crazier than what I had mentioned to you earlier on in this series. For those that were not with us, after I think the first two games of the series, we saw Brunson at one book have like a 4-1 number and at another book about an 8-1, right? A double up. How about this, Dave? After Embiid scored 50, one book had Embiid at minus 2,000 to lead the series in total points. And another book had minus 250. That was wild and a gap that completely blew my mind because we do not see gaps like, again, gaps on long shots, sure. One book having minus 2,000 and minus 250, Dave, that felt rare.
What was the second price on the minus 2,000? Were they close? Because that might have been a fat finger mistake.
Where it should have been minus 200 each way?
Yes. Minus 200 and then minus 250. That makes sense. But if
it wasn't like a plus 175 number. Back it up to minus 2,000. You were getting big tickets.
Wow, so they had somebody come in and make a gigantic play then on Embiid. That's what that meant. That's a huge disparity. And I think it could be a mistake, but the first inclination is that somebody really loved what they saw, and they let them bet it and said, we'll make it so they don't bet it again, and we'll take a shot on maybe somebody behind them winning it. So, I don't know. That's interesting.
I think for me, because Embiid – so this is where that race was so interesting, right? Interesting. Where that race was so interesting is Embiid was going to run away with the MVP and scoring title during the regular season. Embiid entered the series at some books as not the favorite. which
Right.
could only be justified through we don't know if he'll be healthy.
Correct.
And I think and it was DraftKings versus FanDuel, right? We can talk about it, right? And I think at DraftKings, who had the minus 2,000, if it's, hey, we're 3 games in, he just had 50. He's healthy. What would we make this number if Embiid was in the lead by a good amount and healthy? We'd make it minus 2,000. And I felt the FanDuel number was, we don't trust it. We don't trust he'll stay healthy. And it's incredible, Dave, because I would have never thought, and I know he's not healthy, but the fact that Embiid is playing the minutes that he is, but has had some of the scoring outputs that he has the past few games, it makes the Sixers a really tricky team, and I'm curious what you think about them tonight against the Knicks at home.
Well, I've been doing the shows all week, and it's been a fun series back and forth. I really thought the Knicks were going to win Game 5, and one of our guys at the network made sure that I got all the merch. He knows I'm a big merch guy. So he made sure that I got all the Knicks merch and put it all on one graphic that had me right there. I got the jersey, the foam finger, the hat, and he knows that I like the Sixers, and I'm all about the song and the 10-9-8 76ers. I thought the Sixers were going to make this a 7-game series before the series. I still think the same. I think they got away with one, winning Game 5 the way they did. Maxey carried the load, hit that long shot, 4-point play. I think tonight they win. I said it the other night. If you like the dog in this game, you take the money line. If you like the favorite, just lay the points. The number's short enough where I don't think it'll matter. Right now, before the game tips, I think Sixers. What about you?
I am in a really interesting spot. So and we'll do this again in a moment, but my best bet's the Knicks team total over the 99.5.
Okay.
I trust their offense tonight just through that number. 2 straight games in regulation underneath it. Highest scoring performance of the series came in Philly. I trust the Knicks through that number. I think the Sixers have a huge range of outcomes. Red hot, at home, hot Embiid, could be $125, and they will run away from this game. If Embiid can't get right, Maxey comes back down to earth, they could land in the 80s. Wide range of outcomes. We'll close it out with Dave on the other side. We're in the mix. It's Game Time Decisions.
Tory Taylor, who they actually needed some help in terms of their punting unit. He is going to be great.
But I do firmly believe if Odunze's not on the board, that they probably trade back and gain assets and look to fortify their team across the board. But the fact that we got a bozo pick in number 8 here from the Atlanta Falcons, that's the reason why I believe also they picked out the Bears as the winner.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Giannis not available. So, what is that, a 6-year window? He's been injured in, he's been injured in 4 of the last 5 playoffs, Coach?
And he can't close games because he can't shoot. And he's not healthy. At some point, people need to look at Giannis and say, great player? Don't tell me all the time great.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Back right here. Might make a game time decision. This Pat Bev. Let me stall. Like asking
what
Dave.
What are you debating? What are you debating right now? I saw you get deep. What are you debating?
It's very simple. Patrick Beverley has 2 points on 1 of 7 shooting, 0 of 2 from 3. Awful. But he's played 22 minutes. If Pat Bev is going to play 40 minutes in this game, I think he gets 6 points. 4 more points.
That's the number?
Yes. He's terrible. But that's my problem. And this is, I know, silly. It's just, who are you comfortable losing money on? And Pat Bev's one of those guys where, what was I doing? So, as I stall, if you have any thoughts on the baseball, we'll take them, but also the hockey tonight, Boston, Toronto, back up north.
I can't wait to watch that game. I'll be on that. I'll give Ranieri the assignment of watching the basketball close. I will be watching the hockey close. Toronto got an unbelievable game from Wall in goal. That's the only way they win. If you like Toronto, you got to like under. They're going to win the same exact way they won, 2-1. It's going to be 3-2 at most. So under with Toronto. Boston, 0-4 in clinching games. Recent history. They can't close out teams. The only way they win, I think, is if they score a minimum of 3 goals, team total over. The game most likely over. The season over for Toronto. That's where I'm at with the thing right now. Because if we've taken anything from Toronto in years past, they'll win tonight and they'll go and lose in a really tough way in Game 7. But I think Boston, if they score first and can get any point in the game, a multiple goal lead in game, it's done. There'll be empty nets. The decider games usually go over. So if Boston knows or they're up and you pull Toronto's goalie early or they have to change their game, no Austin Matthews. It's all hands on deck. And if they don't get power plays and they're down, they're going to open up and change the way they play. I think we'll see a lot of goals.
That's interesting, that number 5.5. I do think the Boston team total maybe feels like the safer way to play it. Yep. But that's why, to me, Pasta for an assist at plus 100, I think is the best bet you can make. Didn't have a point last game. Yeah, come on, you know what we do. We step up to the plate when the people need us.
Love it.
Reached out.
That guy?
All right, hold on.
That guy?
No, the other guy. But you have to go. But I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it on air, just in case he ever, because it's so bad. But I want to. All right, hold on. Quickly, I reached out to someone who I do trust. I mentioned the Pat Bev thing, and a good point was made. He's 1 of 7. Is Patrick Beverley going to chase? 7 attempts ties Pat Bev's high in this series. So is Patrick Beverley going to leave this game with 14 attempts, even 11? Like, there's a world if Pat Bev doesn't shoot the ball again, right? He goes, okay, I don't have it. This isn't working. I should just pass. And that probably would be for the best, quite frankly, because Pat Bev should not be 1 of 7 from the field ever.
Right.
So I'm going to stay off.
For the record, I like it. I like it over. I'm just saying.
I would never bet it under.
No.
But I'm going to stay off.
Okay.
I'm going to stay off.
All right.
I'll tell you this quickly, in case you got to run. Last night, the guy, the one I mentioned, hit me up, right? A little bit past halftime, right? Star player, points, rebounds, assists, over the number.
Okay.
Didn't record a single point, rebound, or an assist from that point on. One of the craziest things I've ever seen. You got
to keep that guy on speed dial.
Hey,
you got to keep that guy
I'll
on
tell you
speed
this.
dial. Who's he like? Knicks or Sixers?
No take. I'm telling you this. It's going one of two ways. Either the Rangers set him up last round, or the Rangers are going to cover everything else for the rest of his year. It's going one of two ways. I'm telling you right now, Dave. It goes one of two. Look,
boy.
Go Sixers. Knicks team total over the 99.5, Dave. That's how we're playing.
I'll sign for both. That'll be good.
I like it.
All right.
I like it. Let's make it happen, people. Appreciate you as always. Dave is live coming up next on In Game Live, so do not miss out on any of that coverage. And, of course, I'll be back with you this weekend. Saturday, 11 a.m., we get ready, rocking, and rolling with the NBA playoffs, the Kentucky Derby, and a lot more. I'll see you then. Good luck.